As someone who grew up with a Wii, one game I played constantly as a kid was New Super Mario Bros. Wii, and recently I decided to replay this game to relive some good old childhood nostalgia. But you know what? Why stop at just playing the game? How about we make a challenge out of it? Something I've noticed when playing Mario games is that Mario loves killing enemies, whether they be Goombas, Koopas, Piranha Plants, etc. But what if Mario wasn't allowed to kill enemies? Could we still beat the game? Well, that's what we're about to find out today. Is it possible to beat New Super Mario Bros. Wii without touching a single enemy? The rules are simple. We have to beat New Super Mario Bros. Wii while touching the least amount of enemies as possible. What this means is we cannot physically touch or shoot projectiles at any enemies. The only exceptions will be the boss battles, as they're required to move on. We'll also try to avoid using the cannons that launch us to different worlds, but we're allowed to use them if it means the challenge can continue. So without further ado, let's go! The game opens with everyone celebrating Peach's birthday, but then, you won't believe this, Peach gets kidnapped with her own birthday cake. So as you'd expect, Mario rushes off to save her, and the adventure begins. 1-1 is a very easy level with only a few Goombas and Koopas to jump around. We also get introduced to the propeller mushroom in this level, and this thing will be crucial for us to beat some of the levels coming later on. 1-2 takes place underground and has a bunch of piranha plants popping in and out of pipes, but avoiding them is very easy, so no worries. 1-3 is where we first get introduced to Yoshi. Sadly, we can't eat up any of the enemies, but we can use Yoshi's flutter jump to get over them, which makes this level a lot easier. 1-Tower only has a couple dry bones here and there, which are very easy to dodge, so you'll reach the top and take down Larry in no time. 1-4 is an underwater stage, and it contains a lot of fish swimming around, so make sure to be careful to not accidentally hit one. You'll also notice these giant purple clams that like to open and close their mouths, and there's this one that's blocking our path, but if you wait until it opens its mouth and swim by it, I mean, I don't think this counts as touching it, so I'm just gonna keep going. Something else I noticed in this stage is that if enemies are near the flagpole when you touch it, they instantly disappear, and I'm just gonna say it right now, that's not on me. The game decided to kill them off, but that's not my fault, so I don't want to see anyone complaining in the comments. Anyways, after that level is done, make sure not to get hit by this Goomba walking around, and you can move on to 1-5. This level has a few Koopas and Paratroopers flying around, but as long as you have a propeller mushroom, you'll be all good. We finally reached 1-Castle. Make sure to run fast to avoid getting squashed by all these thwomps, and be careful of the occasional dry bones walking around, and you'll soon reach the boss against Larry. Defeat him, and just like that, World 1 is finished. So far, so good. Let's move on to World 2. 2-1 has several Goombas and Piranha Plants all over the place, but with the power of the propeller mushroom, you can fly over all of them with no problems. 2-2 has a bunch of fishy boopkins throwing spike balls at you. There's also this one part with a bunch of Koopa Troopas, and you're definitely going to want a propeller suit, otherwise you'll probably not survive. But aside from that, this level isn't too bad. 2-3 takes place in a very dark cave. I'd recommend taking this one slow and being very careful to avoid all the piranha plants shooting fireballs at you. 2-Tower has you climbing up walls and avoiding dry bones. The only part where I struggled a bit was right here, as I didn't have a propeller mushroom to fly over these guys, but with a couple precise jumps, you can get by them. Make your way to the top and defeat Roy, and this level will be done. 2-4 has wind that's constantly blowing you to the right. The only part worth noting is right at the end. There's a bunch of Koopas walking around blocking the pipe to the exit, but if you wait long enough, an opening will eventually appear and you can beat the stage. 2-5 has a bunch of Pokies, and it introduces my favorite little piece of shit, Lakitu. Make sure to take it slow so you don't accidentally run into an enemy, and you'll be all good. Alright, so this next part is really annoying. In order to get to the next castle, we have to cross this sand pit, but there's a bunch of these holes that will randomly spawn in each time you move. And if you get caught by one, you're thrown into a small area with Spinies trying to hit you. I'd like to avoid this if possible, but the problem is these holes are completely random, so you kind of just have to get lucky when running through this area, but eventually you'll get through it. 2-Castle is a level that loops infinitely if you don't pick the right path path. Make sure to avoid all the dry bones walking around and the fireballs leaping out from the lava, and you'll make it to the end with no problems. We then have another fight against Roy, but you'll defeat him easily. And with that, World 2 is finished, and we still haven't touched any enemies. Nice. Next up is World 3. 3-1 is pretty simple, however make sure to stay on your toes as there are multiple penguins sliding around and it's very easy for one to sneak up on you, but once you got that down, you'll beat this level in no time. 3-2 has a ton of bullet bills being shot at you from all over the place, but you always have enough room to jump in between them, so no worries. Make sure to avoid the ice bros circling around this ring of death, and you'll reach 3-3. This level has a bunch of icicles that fall from the ceiling when you walk underneath them, and there's several Goombas and a couple ice bros hanging nearby that you have to dodge as well. The only part that was a bit scary was right here. You're in this very narrow tunnel with icicles above you and Goombas walking below you. Make sure to be very careful to not accidentally hit something, and you'll eventually make it to the end. Next up is 3-Ghost House, and the only enemies you have to worry about here are some boos floating around the place. Most of them are pretty easy to dodge, though I will point out this one part here. You go down this very slow elevator with boos coming at you from both sides. Make sure to constantly look left and right to slow them down, and you'll be in the clear. Now we're at 3-Tower, and this level has us riding platforms that move so incredibly slow. The first one isn't too bad. You just have to avoid this one dry bones and some amps on your way up. But then we get to the second platform, and this is where things go downhill fast. As you work your way up, several dry bones will start walking in from the sides and onto your platform, and since we can't touch any of them, this platform will fill up fast until you basically have no room to move around. I tried this part over and over and over again, but I simply did not have enough room to jump around them. I then thought about trying to use a propeller mushroom, but that was a pain too. First off, just trying to get back to this stage with a propeller suit was a hassle. I couldn't consistently get them from mushroom houses because of the stupid minigame, so my only real option was to go back to a different level that had a propeller mushroom, but if I did that, then I had to make my way back to 3-Tower, which involves getting past these dumbass ice bros who move randomly in a circle, so it's very easy to accidentally hit one, meaning I had to start the whole process over again. And even when I did finally make it back with a propeller mushroom in tow, I didn't take into account that I could still hit the dry bones if I flew up too far. I think I spent 30-40 minutes on just this stage until eventually I was just like, fuck this. Fuck this stage, fuck those ice bros, I don't need to deal with this kind of torture. Maybe this stage is possible, I don't know, but what I do know is that I can actually skip World 3 entirely. If we go back to World 1, there's a secret exit in 1-3, and by taking this path, we unlock a cannon that'll launch us all the way to World 5, which means we can skip over a pretty large chunk of this game, so hopefully we won't run into too much trouble going forward. 5-1 has these piranha plants with big stretchy necks, as well as these ones that blow spike balls into the air. I'd recommend having a propeller suit handy, but you can still beat the level without it. It just might take you a few tries. Make sure to avoid this piranha plant walking around, and you'll reach 5-2. I'm not gonna lie when I say this level was pretty stressful. Most of the time you're in this narrow cave, and there are giant wigglers crawling all over the place. I thought this level wouldn't be possible because of how little room I had to work with, but to my surprise, this level was actually pretty easy with only a couple tight jumps. I wasn't expecting that, but hey, I'm not complaining. 5-Tower has giant walls of spikes moving from side to side, but surprisingly not that many enemies, so you'll reach the top and beat Iggy in no time. Next up is 5-4, a stage where you have to ride this raft across a river of poison and, Oh, this is gonna be a problem. As you're riding along, a ton of enemies will start falling from above, and if there are too many of them on the raft, it'll stop moving completely. I was really worried that I would have to touch an enemy here, but I wasn't gonna give up that easily. The first third of this level actually wasn't that bad. Yeah, there were a ton of Goombas and Koopas, but I had enough room to jump around them. Plus, the enemies would eventually walk off the raft so I would get moving again. It was very slow, but at least I was making progress. But then you get to this part, and you'll notice these mini Goombas right here. Unlike their older brothers, these little guys don't just casually walk around. They will follow you until you get rid of them, meaning you can't just jump around until they fall off. Instead, I had to jump all the way up here and walk to the right so that the mini Goombas would follow me and fall into the poison. But even after I solved that problem, another one followed immediately afterwards. Now I have Bob-ombs and piranha plants to worry about. The piranha plants in particular were annoying because they don't move left and right, meaning if they fall into the raft, they're stuck there and you just have to deal with it. The main thing that made this process such a pain in the ass was how time consuming it was. This level is so unbelievably slow, with no checkpoints across the whole thing. It also doesn't help that the movement of the enemies is completely random. I'm not kidding when I say I spent roughly 45 minutes on just this stage, but eventually, after lots of trial and error, I reached this point. There were several piranha plants on the raft, and God knows how much of the level was left. So, I did the only thing I could do. I ran super fast and jumped with a propeller suit and... Oh, I did it! Yes! Oh my god, that was brutal. Against all odds, this level was possible without touching any enemies, meaning we can move on with the challenge. Thank God. 5-5 takes place in the sky, and you have to jump on these flying stingrays to make it to the end. And before any of you complain in the comments, no, these guys are not enemies, so chill your chillers. There are a few bullet bills that come in from the right, but these guys move very slow, so you'll dodge them with no problems. We then have another piranha plant we need to get by, and a bunch of annoying vines blocking our path. I found a way to get through here was to take intentional deaths in 5-5 to change up the pattern, and after more attempts than I'd like to admit, I finally reached 5-Castle. This level doesn't have that many enemies aside from a few dry bones and some fireballs hopping out of the lava, all of which you can easily avoid. The fight against Iggy does contain a chain chomp, but as long as you only touch Iggy, you'll be okay. And with this castle done, we're officially halfway through the game and still no enemies touched. Oh yeah. Moving on to World 6, 6-1 has several stone spikes throwing boulders at you, but the main thing you have to worry about are the bullet bills. There are a ton of them being shot from all over the place, and you have to make some pretty tight movements to avoid them all. It is possible, but it might take you a few tries. 6-2 is another underground level, and it has a ton of spinies that fall from the ceiling, but as long as you're fast, you'll avoid them pretty easily. 6-4 has Monty moles that pop out of the walls and come running towards you, but you always have enough room to jump around them, so this level is pretty easy. 6-Tower has this giant skewer that'll try to crush you as you make your way up, but there are barely any enemies that get in your way, so you'll make it to the top and take out Morton with no trouble. 6-5 has a giant fish that's constantly trying to eat you. I recommend bringing a propeller mushroom with you to beat this stage. Trust me, it'll make your life a lot easier. 6-6 takes place in this very dark cave, and the only source of light is this lamp that you can rotate all around. I'm not gonna lie, this was a very boring level. The only enemies that'll get in your way are piranha plants and some bats, all of which are very easy to dodge. Also, on my first playthrough, I ended up finding the secret exit by accident, which leads you to another cannon. As tempting as it was to use that cannon to skip all the way to World 8, I decided to save it for now and see if the upcoming levels were possible. Make sure to avoid hitting the bullet bills on your way up the mountain, and you'll reach 6-Castle. This level has a bunch of swinging platforms and spiky boulders rolling around, but not that many enemies, so I was able to make it to the end just fine. And once you defeat Morton for the second time, World 6 will be done. Or maybe not. Before we can move on to the next world, we have to deal with that brat Bowser Jr. 6-Airship has a bunch of Mecha Koopas walking around and Rocky Wrenches throwing stuff at us. This level might look scary at first, but it's really not that bad. However, definitely make sure you have a propeller mushroom for this stage, as there's this one Mecha Koopa blocking our path right here that you can't jump over normally. We then have a boss battle against Junior where we have to push him into these electric walls, and once that's done, now we can move on from World 6. Let's get started with World 7. 7-1 is a very easy level with all the enemies being easily avoidable. 7-2 has you swimming through these floating bubbles of water while avoiding bullet bills and chain chomps. This level is also pretty easy, so nothing to worry about. 7-3 has a ton of fuzzies riding on rails, but once again, avoiding them all is no big deal. Although I will say, I did have this one clutch moment where I nearly fell down a pit, but just barely managed to save myself. Ooh, that was crazy. 7-Tower is next, and oh my god, this level was stressful. So what you have to do is go up this elevator that you can move left or right using motion controls, and for the first half of the stage, you have all these bullet bills being shot at you at the same time, and then when you reach the top, you have bonsai bills being fired out as well. This section isn't that terrible, but with how slow the elevator moves, you really have to be on your toes to avoid everything. But then you get to the second half and things get much worse. Instead of bullet bills, you have to deal with bob-ombs being shot at you. This part is so annoying. The bob-ombs can walk on the elevator if they land on it, and sometimes you don't even see the bombs coming as they can be shot off screen. I definitely spent the most time trying to get through this section, but eventually I did pull it off and make it to the top. I wish I could say I had some sort of strategy for doing this, but honestly, you kinda just have to wing it until you make it. Once you reach the top, you have a fight against Ludwig, and finally, this level is done. 7-Ghost House has these enemies known as bruisers. These guys will punch at you rapidly when you get close to them, but you can easily jump over all of them and get to the top. Make sure to also avoid these boos as you fall down this giant pit, and then you'll be all good. You'll have to get by this Lakitu floating around on the map, and then you'll reach 7-4. This level is filled with moving pipes and platforms that move when you tilt the Wii remote. Most of this level is pretty simple to get through, but then you'll reach this part and oh, that's a lot of Koopas. Yeah, make sure to have a propeller mushroom handy to get over these guys, then afterwards, the rest of the level is pretty easy. 7-5 has those enemies that blow clouds at you to block your vision, but as long as you're careful and pay attention to the enemies around you, then this level won't be that hard. Now we're at 7-Castle, a stage that's filled to the brim with skewers. There are also a few very annoying sledge bros that took me a few tries to get by, but aside from that, this level ain't too bad. We then have another fight against Ludwig, and once you defeat him, World 7 will be completed. So now, we only have one world left to tackle, World 8. Time to finish this challenge once and for all. 8-1 is up, and the only enemies present in this level are a handful of Buzzy Beetles, and all of them are very easy to avoid, so no worries. 8-2 has a bunch of rolling hills and spike balls that try to crush you, but there aren't that many enemies aside from some Goombas in the middle, so this level is also pretty easy. 8-3 has giant waves of lava moving across the stage. Be careful to avoid some Koopas near the beginning, as well as some flame chomps near the end, and you'll be all good. Before you get to the next level, be careful not to get hit by fireballs as you cross this bridge, and then you'll reach 8-Tower. And this level has no enemies in it. Like, at all. Well, okay, I guess technically enemies can show up during the fight with Kamek when he shoots magic at you, but you can easily avoid all of them. Aside from that, though, this stage is a total breeze, and thank God for that, because the next level isn't so friendly. 8-4 takes place underwater. Why is there an underwater stage in the lava world? Regardless, the first half of the level contains spikes throwing boulders at you, and these giant glow-in-the-dark fish. I found the best strategy here was to swim to the top and jump over the spikes. The second half is a lot more scary. You have these jellyfish that can light up the room, which is fine, but then you also have Cheep Cheeps and bloopers that fade into the darkness, and all of these enemies pack together real tight in some places, so you have to be unbelievably careful when navigating through this level, but with enough practice, it is possible. 8-5 is an auto-scroller where you control a raft with motion controls. The first half has bob-ombs falling from the sky because, of course, it does. Okay, this part actually wasn't that hard. You just tilt the raft such that bob-ombs don't fall onto it, and if they do, just jump over them. The second half, on the other hand, is so much worse. Now we have birds flying in that we have to deal with. What makes these guys particularly annoying is that they don't just come swooping in once and that's it. No. Instead, what happens is that they'll come in first, loop back around, and then come flying back at you even faster. Trust me when I say you'll absolutely want to be Small Mario for this section. I had to make some very tight jumps to get in between the birds, but with enough trial and error, I managed to pull it off. 8-6 has you climbing up a huge tower with lava constantly rising beneath you. There are some Koopas walking around, as well as a ton of fireballs jumping from the lava, but this level is actually pretty easy and you'll beat it in no time. We've now reached 8-airship, and the only enemies here are a few Mecha Koopas walking around, but none of them will get in our way to reaching the end. We then have another fight against Bowser Jr. where we have to ground pound the floor and hit him with these big spiky bombs. But once that's done, we head outside and hey, there's Princess Peach. Well, I guess the adventure is over and we beat the Oh, really, Kamek? That's not cool. Introducing the actual final level of the game, 8-Bowser. And I gotta be honest, this final stage really isn't that hard. The only enemies you really have to be careful of are these fireballs at the beginning, and even then, they're pretty easy to avoid. So, after a few minutes of platforming, you'll reach the final boss against Bowser. Wait until you see an opening to run over to the button on the other side, press it, and Bowser will be sent plummeting to his death. And just like that, we did it. We finally saved the princess. Oh, what? Really, Kamek? You debated me again? Now it's time for the real final boss. Bowser will grow really big, and you must quickly make your way to the end while avoiding getting hit by his fireballs. And during this whole sequence, there isn't a single enemy that shows up. Aside from this one lone Goomba right here, but you can easily get around him. And at long last, you'll reach the giant button of doom, send Bowser flushing down the drain, and finally, for real this time, we've saved Princess Peach. We reunite with Luigi and the Toads, Bowser gets crushed by his own castle, and we take a nice hot air balloon ride back home. Hopefully something like this never happens again. So, is it possible to beat New Super Mario Bros. Wii without touching a single enemy? Yes, it is! Against all odds, we actually pulled it off. There were definitely a few stinkers that gave us a hard time, but we persevered through all of it and made it to the end. I hope you guys enjoyed going on this adventure with me, and if there are any other games you'd like me to attempt this challenge with, let me know in the comments below. So with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe so you can see more videos like this in the future. Have a great day, stay safe out there, and I will see you in the next one.